Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Political No Brainer, the podcast where we move past winner takes all politics and into real conversation. Today, I am here with Maurice Saunders, uh, the innovator, proprietor, and developer, I guess you would say, of EZDrink. And it's not just a drink. It's not just a drink app. It's a food app. It's I believe, a big innovation in how we can start ordering our food and how we can start ordering from all over the place with one app. And rather than me talk about it, I want Maurice, the person that developed it, to talk about it. Maurice, jump right in and take over. Tell us about your product.
Well, thank you. We've recently transitioned the name to seamlessly. We found that mobile ordering is a part of what we're looking to do. Ultimately, we're looking to streamline the entire hospitality industry. Where, for example, Eventbrite, they have they charge fees on the back end, they charge fees on the front end. So the customer's paying, the vendor's paying, and neither is really getting a satisfying experience ultimately because there's all these different fees that are involved in the process that take money out of customers' pockets and takes money out of vendors. And where does all this money go? Is my concern. And so whether it be digital ticketing, reducing wait times for vendors that find a better way to get to calculate their inventory so they can place more bulk orders and possibly even having multiple vendors order to simultaneously to bring down costs as well. So ultimately, our goal is to help establishments and vendors save money to add to their bottom line. Because what we notice is that most people are very big on looking for more ways to increase their revenue. If you decrease expenses, you inherently increase revenue, or you increase profit at least. And on the customer end, we feel that a lot of people are spending a lot of money, and then once they actually get to an establishment or a vendor, they're not really enjoying their experience. So the least we can do is minimize the costs and find ways to make things more efficient for all parties involved.
So that's really exciting. And your app is developed now, right? So it's actually out there. You're out there soliciting business now, correct?
It's absolutely. I was at an event for Aura Hotels. They are doing a condo hotel in Tampa. It's opening in a couple of years. Went to an event last night. Really enjoyed myself. It was an interesting experience. It's kind of a client that I would love to have down the road. I was at the Youth Wednesday Circles Food Market, which is second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. And I was there, yeah, this past Wednesday. It's a pretty cool experience as well. In fact, I was able to connect with about 6 to 7 vendors that we're hoping to bring on board. And then maybe in the next month or two, host an event at the market where we have a comedian, possibly a magician, and things of that nature. Really just bring out that sense of community.
So this is pretty incredible that this is I guess the start of something really. I would say it is the start of something really big, kind of like Amazon in a sense. You compared it to Amazon in a sense
Right.
where essentially, like you said, 50% of the product may come from Amazon and 50% of the product may come from outside vendors, right? So
Right.
everybody's using the outlet. And so I don't know, I don't know that you're necessarily going to start opening restaurants, but you're making this app available to every restaurant that so chooses. Is that correct?
Our market is views, vendors, and venues. And so that could be a stadium, it could be a small food truck, it could be a major festival, or a restaurant or a bar. And so that's kind of our market in that lane. And we have considered um, maybe open up a food truck or an establishment. Because my son likes to cook actually, and we were at the food truck at the market on Wednesday, and he said, I want to do a food truck." So it may be something we could consider down the road.
So, and I told you my personal fascination is food trucks. Like, not, I don't know, I'm getting older now. I don't know that I'm going to be able to open a food truck in this life, but
Right.
I always have had this feeling like there's an absolute necessity for food, and that's basically where we're at. There's an absolute necessity for good food, and we're not necessarily there. So when I always say, whenever you see a McDonald's on every street corner, it's because there's a necessity, and they've
Right.
created sort of a craving. Like,
Yes.
so. I always thought the beginning of in my years in the restaurant business was never enough to just be liked. It was never enough to even be loved as a restaurant. You really needed to be craved. And there are
Right,
food trucks that I crave. And I would love, I had mentioned to you, and I think you're open to the idea of, I think that a big part of your business may ultimately become food trucks, where you can literally find the things you want to eat, not just McDonald's. And I'm not going to call it crap because I've actually been known to say I've never had a bad experience at McDonald's, but it's not what I was looking for on the healthy end.
right,
So there's food trucks that can really produce some food, catering to certain diets, catering to, and I've always been wanting to be able to just access that on an app or on a website where I
mhm,
can go, what street corner they're at on this day, because maybe they move on a day to day. And
right.
so that's where I really see the potential. One of the well, I it's not for me to name the potentials, but I just love the idea of your app going that route, you know. So
Absolutely. Our goal is ultimately to become a verb. Like people don't go online to search for something; they Google it. And Amazon's getting close to that as well. Where another example is ChatGPT has become a verb when it comes to the AI space. But there are several competitors of ChatGPT. There's Claude, there's Cursor, there's Gemini, and what is it? The guy from Tesla. What's the name?
Elon
Elon
Musk,
Musk. Yes,
yeah.
he has DeepSeek, but the country and the world views AI as ChatGPT, and so that's what our goal is to be one day.
And I think you will be because, like you said, I mean, as far as retail, the country and the world, not necessarily the world, but the country views Amazon as the outlet for retail.
Right,
And then as like you said, ChatGPT, there's always the Walmart versus Kmart. There's always the
right,
bigger one, and then there's the one that preliminary that never really gets to that bigger side. But you know what? Being even a little smaller than Walmart's not small, So,
right.
so
Absolutely.
so, but this is an incredible thing you've done. It's just a matter of the. How did you come? Do you have a background in IT? Do you have in computer engineering? I mean, how did you come to this? How did you create this? How did you do this?
I guess I got my degree from Northern Illinois University a lifetime ago, year 2000, in computer science. I transitioned into a few different businesses from there, three different careers. I was a serial entrepreneur. I was in retail management, retail, real estate sales, uh, trucking as well. And then I needed to do something when I moved to Florida that was a little more convenient for my time. And so going back in IT is what helped to work remotely. And then once I got in the field, started learning more and more, started combining that with my passion for just experiencing life and going out and things of that nature. I started seeing that there were very, very, very long wait times at bars and establishments. And it was something that's very upsetting because the last thing you want to do is go out and you feel like customer service is poor, or you just feel like you could have left your money in your pocket. And then as I went further down this journey, I just see more and more like different companies are really charging these very, very, very high fees that take away from the experience or take out of the pockets of the vendors and the customers. Now, well, looking to find a way to create more ways to reduce those costs for everybody involved.
So I know for a fact I worked for a restaurant chain that does Uber, that does DoorDash, and I every night I had to close out each individual ticket. And on an average, and I went to multiple stores. They had about 25 stores, and I visited them all in the course of a year a lot of times. So I was literally the hands-on manager. I was the
Right,
night guy, the closer. That was my thing. Closed out, like I said, 40 to 70, really 70 was the average. I think it was actually higher in the busier stores. So there's Uber collecting, like you said, a fee on both ends.
right.
We're closing out the tickets, we're paying our end. The people
Yep,
that run their charge card are paying a fee as well.
yep,
So there was this, and what it did for us is we had to be a part of it. We had to. If we didn't do Uber, we would simply not do the business we were doing. So even at a lesser profit, we were better off doing it than
right,
not doing it. So then comes Maurice Saunders, who creates this app, and your fees are going to come to you, but they're going to be less than because when you think of Uber, you're literally paying a cab ride for your food. I mean, it's a
right.
luxury, and it's a good luxury, but you are paying a premium. So then you're going to do it. The fees are going to be reduced. You're actually going to be paying closer to the restaurant prices than
Right.
you are with Uber or DoorDash or Grubhub, I think is another one. Um, okay, so here we are. We've got this incredible product. We've got this incredible app. And then comes, so one time a professor of economics and Bill Clinton's labor secretary, Robert Reich, talked about how Amazon got to start. His mom lent him $250,000. That's
Right.
his start. And he told his mom, there's 70% to 90% chance we're going to go, it's not going to work. She said, I
Right.
believe in you. And she gave him the $250,000. So now we talked about this in our international phone conversation. You have some options to invest. And so let's be clear on this. The people that invested in Amazon early on, so let's just talk about his mom. Let's keep this laser
Right.
focused on the one investor. That investment turned into billions and billions of dollars. It
Absolutely.
wasn't even if you were to say if I bought $250,000 worth of Amazon stock when it was available to the public, she invested even earlier. So her early investment yielded a bigger yield, which is in the
Right.
billions.
Absolutely.
So we talked about it. I kind of know the answer, but I want you to explain it. What are the options to invest in Maurice Saunders and EZDrink?
As of September 26, 2025, for 0.1% interest, a fractional share is $1,250. For 10% is 12,500. Sorry, for 1% is 12,500, and for 10%, which is the maximum we're looking to bring on investors for, is 98,000.
So I remember now again, I'm going into history here. I remember Facebook saying we don't want to go public because the minute we get to 5,000 investors, we're held accountable like a publicly traded company. Are you
Right.
are you going to draw the line at a certain amount of investors at a lower level? Because the number is 5,000 investors. Whether you invest $1,000 or $10,000, when you get to that 5,000 level of
Yeah.
investors, you're held to the same accountability as Ford Motor Company. You're held to
Right.
the same accountability as Tesla even. I mean they're all
Right.
the same at 5,000 investors. So you're going to draw the line, is this window going to close? Cuz there's I believe in it and
Right.
I think a lot of people believe in it. And then I'm not going to I'm going to ask that question, is there a number you're going to draw the line at for the initial investors? That's the question. And then I'm going to go
Right.
into something else.
It's for the initial investor, we're drawing the line at 10%, as far as we won't sell more than 10% of the business in totality for the startup phase. So we're going to maintain 90% control.
So you're going to maintain 90% control. And then I had this interesting notion that which is so you were talking to your son about being a part of the business, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So he's talking about a food truck. He's also
Right.
talk. He'll probably be better at the app development end of the business than even us because we're getting older. So he
Right.
is going to be probably be an intricate part of the business, which is another, I say, fascination of mine. It's another very important part of my sense of mission in life is to understand what kids want to do,
Absolutely.
and and so and so okay, just so I put this out there, I've now developed Kids Quack, which is a podcast for kids. We're
Right.
launching soon, and so ultimately, I'm going to call you again and say, hey, can we get your son on the podcast? And that's
Okay.
up to you. You have to make that decision. And so
Right.
I presented out there the idea because I was talking to a on my podcast a lady named Laura Lucra, who's the Independent Center for Candidates for political
Mhm.
independent political candidates. And one of the things we talked about was how innovative kids are. Like there was
Yes.
this young lady, and she was modeling wedding dresses on TikTok and then selling them. And it was a great business. So I said, if we gave this young person the opportunity to, instead of going to college, if we gave her the choice of a college loan or a small business loan, what would she opt? So do you think if your son had the option, would he opt into a small business loan? And are you looking for a small business loan to grow your business and get that initial 250,000 that way? That allegedly is all it took for Amazon.
Right. Great question. My oldest, he's currently attending a UIC in computer engineering. My youngest is the one that he's 9 years old that said he wants to open up a food truck. He likes to cook at home. He makes pretty decent eggs and he likes to make burgers as well. And when I asked him, he would like to sell the food truck. He said burgers. And so um, that would be more his lane. As far as just open to a SBA loan and also open up to investors to keep this engine flowing. I feel that allowing me the time to focus directly on growing the business and working on the business instead of in the business turned us up a pretty big deal.
It's going to turn into a big deal. That's what I think. When I saw you at Million Cups of Coffee and I heard you talking about it, and I combined my nearly 40 years in the hospitality business at this point, I said, "Wow, this is really something." And then you said now you've got, I didn't even know you have a young man in college, a young son in college that's going for another computer engineering degree that can create, that can give you some other ideas on how to develop this app. So it's,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's really an incredible, you've got an incredible foundation and you're already going. You're already showing your product to potential
Right.
customers. So I'm always looking forward to talking about it more down the road. The um when okay, so let me ask this. Okay, so when we're done with this podcast today, what's next on your agenda for the day? You're going to go back out to restaurants? Are you going to start working on the app again? How do you how do you push this thing harder and harder and harder and harder?
Oh, for the rest of the day, I'm probably going to take a more of a relaxed day, just spend time with the family. But this week, I was at the Uses event. I was at one of the Cups on Wednesday. I was also at the event last night, networking, and I'll possibly go back out there tomorrow. But I'm getting more and more comfortable having these conversations because I'm less and less focused on the sales aspect of it. I'm more focused on just having a conversation and showing how, not showing the problem that I can solve, but finding out what problems customers have. So I found out about the Eventbrite opportunity by speaking with someone just in passing, and they were saying how the Eventbrite takes up a lot of their fees. I feel that way is a good way to get into the door of the event planning industry and possibly
Absolutely.
grow with other um, grow with other chapters of that organization. So
And then like the Million Cups of Coffee. I mean, for all we know, restaurant owners will start coming through there too, or they may be there right now. There are restaurant owners that have been there, and they may be interested. So, um,
that's actually how I got connected with the Eustis market that was on Wednesday. Someone was invited to see me speak, and she opened up the door for me to come out and speak to her vendors. And that turned, and I created a webinar. We're going to have that webinar Tuesday.
wow, that's great. And that's the kind of thing that really excites me is the fact that, we keep seeing over and over and over again big business consuming what the little businessman used to do, what the smaller startup businessman used to do really well. We see that a lot. So I always tell this story of, I've told it often enough and I'll tell it. I don't know who's seen or heard the story and how many people are going to be interested in to hear your story. So I'm going to tell the story of when I was younger, I had a cleaning business. So I used to strip and wax floors, clean carpet, and I would go out just similar to you, I would go out and pass out business cards. Walked into a general rental, which was happened to be a place where I would rent machines. Sometimes I would get a pressure cleaning job, and sometimes they'd be really big. I had one pressure cleaner. I might need two of my friends to help me and need three pressure cleaners. So I wind up at this general rental, rent a trailer, rent two pressure washers, show up at the job with three pressure washers. And so I asked the gentleman who owned the general rental about if he needed his floor stripped and waxed.
Mhm.
And he said, yeah. And it was a great business he had. It was always booming. You were
Right.
always waiting in line. And there was an irony to it. He actually told me one time when I stripped the wax floors, he said, you ought to invest in Home Depot stock. I didn't really know how to invest, so I didn't really
Mhm.
listen to him. But the irony of it all was, and where I'm landing with this story was, there was a Home Depot up the road from him, and they got into equipment rental. And
Right.
basically, and it wasn't far at all up the road from him. It was literally less than a mile on the same side of the road. And when they got into equipment rental, they really cannibalized his business. Now, over those years that he was in business, he did very well, and he also owned a building he was in, which he was able to sell for a great deal of money,
Mhm.
more than he paid for it. But big business, again, they consumed the little guy in a way, and I've seen that a lot. But in this particular instance, where if you're the innovator of an incredible, this is the day and age of IT. This is the day and age of apps. This is the day of age of essentially ride sharing or
Right.
sharing. So, so I'm really looking forward to your prospects. I'm really looking forward because you've got a bright future. But so my when it could be a hard long haul, but you're gonna stick.
Oh, yes.
You're in it for the long haul, right?
Absolutely. This is get rich or die trying. That's our motto with this. I do feel it could very well take 2 to 3 to 5 years to really get this off the ground. But once it gets off the ground, it's gonna grow exponentially because I'm not looking at any particular sale anymore like I originally thought about. Now I'm just saying I focus on customers saving money, vendors saving.
And you
Long
making
term,
money.
things are going right. Long term, things are going to naturally progress because in the history of business, if you make things more efficient with higher quality, you save people money. It's pretty much a bulletproof plan to success.
That's kind of my feeling about my podcast. I feel like no matter if I interview and I interview and I interview and people find my show interesting, sooner or later, I don't know that I'll ever be the next Joe Rogan, but if I have some level of success, I'm going to be happy with that.
Right.
But this is a bigger there's this is a bigger your what you're doing I believe is going to be bigger than I've ever seen. That's why I saw you at 1 million cups and I jumped right on. I said, Maurice, how about you do the show? I want to hear about your product. I want to hear about how you're going to execute getting the product out there. And and I'm really looking forward to the future stories, the future follow-up stories. So um
Absolutely.
and I really want to get your son on. I love the idea that he loves to cook and he wants to start a food truck. I really want to. I
Yeah.
want to. We'll talk more because I'll see you more often at
Right.
at other places. But so how do we get in contact with you, Maurice? How do we? Somebody watching this podcast may be as enthusiastic as me and say, I
Right.
really want to get with Maurice and I want to know more about Seamless and I want to be a part, invest in it because, like you said, you want to keep 90% control of the operation. So um, it's not for sale; it's for
Right.
investment.
Absolutely. I can be reached at Maurice Maurice dot Sanders Sanders at EZDrink.us. Again, Maurice Maurice dot Sanders Sanders at EZDrink.us. And the website is seamlessly.us. As I said before, we're transitioning our name here. And phone number will be 305-434-07.
Got it. So go ahead and tell us the phone number once more.
305-434-07.
Got it. 405 3.
305
Okay, let me start again. 305
434
434
07
07
38.
338. 305 434 0738. Maurice Sanders. I am going to see you again, and hopefully it's some million cups of coffee meetings. We're going to talk more. I'm really looking forward to seeing this thing boom because, like I said, I've been in the restaurant business for over 40 years. When I get done today with this podcasting that I'm doing during the day, I'm going to work in a restaurant. I'm a server, and I'm going to work in a restaurant. So I've been around the block when it comes to restaurants, and I've picked some. I worked initially the company I worked for that I told you I went to nearly 25 locations a year for, different days, of course. Every
Right.
day was a different spot. They started with one spot, an old Calico Jacks. They painted the walls themselves. They bought TVs at garage sales. They started a sports bar. They rented an old place, and I mean they're millionaires now. They're doing really well, and it's really impressive what they did. And I was really glad to be a part of it. It was never my sense of mission to own a restaurant, but
Right.
um, I was really glad to be a part of it and know that I they had some great success.
So
And I'm
on
looking
that
forward to
topic,
you. Um,
thank you. So on that topic, what do you see the differentiator for companies that grow to that level? Like, what would be the one thing that kind of you could point out that the different companies that you've seen grow to a pretty huge level, what did they have, or what was their secret sauce
Their
ultimately?
secret sauce was their recipes. So but their other secret sauce wasn't they did fall in that category of people crave their product.
Right.
And then so that's a general. The other thing that their other secret sauce was they were very disciplined when it came to money.
Okay.
Extremely disciplined. I used to call them cheap, but that's not the right thing to say. They were extremely disciplined. And that gave them the edge, really. That gave them the ability to where the time came when a good deal came, when there was a good location available for rent. And there was some big stories of that. There was one location in particular that was a great place for the longest time, but the owner lost it. And they were able to jump right in and take over that location and put their concept in there. And that was a key to their success, was their ability to financially plan and not assume that every dime that came in was money for spending. It was a lot of times money for saving. And they always had the money when they needed it because they didn't assume they were rich. They didn't assume they had succeeded and they could start buying fancy cars. And they didn't. They really didn't. Till now they've definitely indulged, but I mean
Right.
they're in a good position to. In the beginning, that was their secret sauce, really, was their key to success. Because the restaurant business can be, you can have a really successful restaurant, but if a walk-in cooler goes down and the repair is $4,000, that may be the $4,000 you are going to use to pay the rent,
Right.
and that could be the spiral down. That could be the spiral downward to a point
Right.
where you can't get back. Whereas they never were really in that position. They were always to keep their head above water, always able. So that was their secret sauce. And then
Right.
their product was their secret sauce, just like you. Your product is your secret sauce. But
Right.
financial planning, it wasn't about their ability to borrow money. It was about their ability to really manage that money.
Sounds great because I noticed that you spoke on the freezer go down. That's a $4,000 expense. And I've also heard that the margin in the restaurant is so slim that I feel by finding different ways to cut expenses or bring together, I forgot the name of the phrase where like, let's say they're in a group that knows, let's say we have a particular AC person that we connect with. And instead of going out and looking up in online, whatever, for a refrigerator person, we already have somebody that we can recommend to them. It'll be at lower cost. And so as we continue to find these ways, like the example you gave, to help these establishments lower their expenses, it can increase the margins well that way.
That's a very important feature because restaurant business, the margins are small and volume counts. So the other important, when it comes to your product, the one thing I really like about it, so there's Uber, just like we said, we talked about it.
Right.
Uber brings it to your door. Now, if somebody literally analyzes, now you don't bring it to the door, right? So if
We
somebody literally analyzes, if I pay Uber to bring it to my door, I'm going to be paying $27. If I
right.
pay Maurice and Seamless to do the order, I'm gonna be paying essentially what I'm paying the restaurant, and I'll just go run and pick it up.
Right.
And the
Actually,
difference,
we can, and that's what we're building out right now, is the functionality to integrate with delivery services as well. Because one thing, it's more than just the fees that these companies are charging. The customer, I mean, the vendor doesn't have that customer list from this transaction. And as we very well know, the easiest customer to sell to is somebody that's already bought. But if you don't have access to the customer list, how can you sell to that customer? And also on the back end, if someone delivers an item and it's not up to their standard, let's say it's too cold, it could be the driver took too long to get it delivered. But where are they gonna go to write the review then? They're gonna go to their restaurant and
during
write
a
the review.
restaurant, right,
So you don't control that in part of it either. So
right. And so all that combined is gonna make you the better choice.
that's the goal.
And
That's the goal.
that's the point of it all is how do you beat the big guy at his own game? And the way you beat the big guy at his own game is save people money and make you the better choice. And
Absolutely.
ultimately get your product the way you want. Like you said, yeah, we Uber constantly, not only cold food, but I mean, as a restaurant manager, it was literally, I don't know how true it was, but I would get the calls on Uber that they felt like even the driver may have taken something out of the box or
Right.
the bag. I feel like we filled the order correctly. We had enough steps in place to know that the bag went out correctly. And when I got a call that they didn't have certain items in the bag, I feel like it wasn't us. Even though I took full responsibility, and the issue with that was not only did I take full responsibility, but Uber got their money. They're the ones that get paid.
Of course.
and then they send us the money. So we're only going to get what they send us, and it's only going to be based on the order. What I give back to the customer on my end to compensate for what happened never comes back to us from Uber.
Right.
So in that respect too, if I'm going to lose less as a restaurant owner by working with your app, I'm going to be happier with your app than I am with Uber. It doesn't mean I'm going to cut off Uber because it has become a
Exactly.
staple. But
Yes.
it does mean if a customer asks me, I'm going to say, hey, I prefer you go through Seamless.
Right.
And
And that's
then
something,
that's going to grow your business exponentially, which comes down to a financial sort of savings. Because if you're not busy advertising, if you're busy growing your business by word of mouth, you're going to make a lot more money because advertising is extremely expensive. And Google can say the only thing you're paying for is the clicks that are looking for your business. Yes, but the first thing Google's going to tell you is what's your budget. So you say my budget's 3,000 bucks a month. Yeah, every click it for that 3,000 is going to you to see what you're doing, but you're still out of pocket $3,000 that month. Whereas word of mouth is free.
right. And
So,
that's our focus is that we feel as we build this out and we work with new clients and we start to understand our clients' pain point. Because one thing I'm noticing in this process is that it's one thing for me to know that I can solve a problem, but if that customer doesn't care about that problem, then it's useless. So I need to know what their problem is and solve their problem. And by solving their problem, I'm able to have value adds to the business. And as our service clients, word spreads, and ultimately it'll grow organically.
well, they
And
say, go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, no, they say that the reason for Amazon's key to success was Jeff Bezos' attention to customer service, his
Yep.
his absolute diligence to customer service, his absolute commitment. He would answer the calls. He would literally run the orders out. And even towards the end, before he stepped down as CEO, you could do Jeff at Amazon.com, send him an email, and he may not respond, but he might send it to an executive, and you would get an email back. So he's still to this day, if you want to know, if you really have a big issue, you could do Jeff at Amazon.com and that email will get to him.
Oh, wow.
And
And
so that attention to detail, that attention, that commitment to customer service and is really what really made the big difference with Amazon. And you know for a fact, and especially in the beginning, now they've changed a little, but if something was wrong, you just send it back. There was no questions asked. They
yep.
did get taken advantage of, so they've kind of pulled back a little, but not a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to grow in that realm too, as far as providing customer service at an exceptional level. It's going to be a great way to boost the business because
Yeah.
people, when you save people money, you find new ways for them to grow their business and you invest in their business, they're going to invest in yours. And also, as a society, most people hate change. So if they find something that, even if it isn't a great product, people hate the change. If they have a great product that's with great customer service at a reasonable fee, they're just that less likely to want to change also.
So with that kind of thinking, I'm really excited about your future prospects. I think it's going to be huge because, and I love the product. I've said that every time we talk. I say it 11 times how I
I
love the
appreciate
product.
that.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean, literally I mean, probably through this podcast, I've said that at least 11 times that I love the product. So I'm really
you.
looking forward to a huge success story and just being a part of hearing you telling the story to me and my podcast as it develops because that's I always invite my guests back always so I'm looking forward to tomorrow I actually have just because the topic of autism has come up so often in the last few days and a few months ago we had Temple Grandin and she's a scientist, she's an autistic scientist and professor and just an incredible success story, inventor, and we're having her back on tomorrow, and we always bring our guests back. We always want to hear what's on their mind. So I'm looking forward to having you back. And like I said, I'm looking forward to having the young man. What's your son's name?
Amari is his
Amari.
name.
Amari. So that's up to you though.
Excellent.
Think about that too, because I'd love to talk. Well, with you, talk to him about what's going on, what he's thinking.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you,
That would
man.
be. Thank you, Maurice. I'm looking like, share, subscribe, comment. You can contact Maurice, especially we were talking about this in Million Cups of Coffee. You can call him. You don't just have to
Yes,
email him. You can call him, and the phone number is
absolutely.
305 434 0738. And if you want,
Yep.
go ahead and tell us the website. But you can call him. There was
Yes.
somebody said a million cups of coffee that said on their event. I actually answer my phone. Maurice,
Yeah.
I believe, will answer his phone because I've
Absolutely.
called you. I've called you enough times.
Yep. And the website is seamlessly.us. SEAMLESSLY.us.
That is great. Thank you, Maurice. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
All
I'll
right.
see you soon too. Thank you,
See
sir.
you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You as well.
Enjoy the family today.
No problem. Thank you.